So the first thing we need to do is get to work on the aromatics, that kind of mirepoix vegetable mix, the onion, the celery, the carrot. Now, I'm never scared of chopping up vegetables. I love chopping a vegetable. But today, because this recipe is a little bit of a project, we're gonna use every shortcut we can. So we're gonna use a food processor today to chop up our veg. I'm not worried about a perfect dice, we just want them finely chopped. So I've got 2 yellow onions that I'm just gonna add right on into the food processor. Then I'm gonna grab a carrot and just bust it up into there. You can cut it if you want, but why do that? Celery, hopefully it's not stringy. Okay, we're good. Okay, nice. There we go. Feeling good. I've also got 4 cloves of garlic here that I'm gonna add in as well. And we just wanna pulse that until it's nicely chopped. Ooh. Guys, we were excited. Now, I know sometimes I do this all the time. Anytime I'm like, oh, I have to get my food processor down because it's above my fridge, which is always a pain in the butt. But this is such a time saver. Like, I just chopped all of those vegetables in approximately 5 seconds. Also, if you ever need to grate a bunch of cheese, if you got the cheese grating attachment, you could grate like a kilo of cheese in 20 seconds. It's a dream. Something I did recently. It was fun. All right, so I've got those vegetables nice and chopped up, and I've got a pan here over about medium-ish heat. Now, I'm gonna go in with 2 tablespoons of butter. If you want, you could also use oil, but for me, cabbage rolls and butter just kind of go hand in hand. So I'm gonna go into there with that, and just let that melt down a little bit. And I'm gonna go in with those vegetables. Again, since it's cabbage rolls, you kind of want everything about the size of a grain of rice, so it kind of all comes together. It's still got a bit of texture, but it's really, really tasty. So I'm going in with those veg. Immediately, that sounds and smells delicious. Perfect. I'm not gonna be too fussy about scraping this out because we're gonna use this food processor again. Now, I'm just gonna season that with a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, as well as a bit of dry thyme. Now, if you have fresh thyme still kicking around somehow, feel free to use that. But dry thyme has a really good flavor as well, and it lasts forever. You're never gonna end up with that clamshell in your fridge, and you're like, what was that? Yeah. I don't even know. So I'm gonna go in with a little bit of dry thyme, just to bring that warm, delicious flavor. Give that a stir, and let that cook down. Now, this should take about 5 to 7 minutes over medium heat to cook down just until it's nice and jammy and tender. So I'm gonna let that start doing its thing, and now we're gonna get to work on kind of one of the meaty substitutes in these cabbage rolls. Now, typically a cabbage roll has like pork or beef in it, but I wanted to sub that out with a few different kind of substitutions. So the first thing we're using is some mushrooms. So I've got 227 grams of mushrooms, which sounds, I know you're like, Mary, no one is doing that. But fun fact, that's how much you get in one of those little plastic containers. When I'm writing a recipe, I'm like, do I say plastic container or do I give you the grams? And I love a number, so I'm gonna give you all of them. All right, so we're gonna go in with some cremini mushrooms, but if you had other mushrooms, feel free to use those. And again, just like with the other veg, I'm gonna pulse those up just to chop them. Again, we're not looking for finesse here, we just want it chopped. If you got some bigger chunks, I'm never mad at that, a little bit more texture. And mushrooms cook down really nicely. So again, in a few button pushes, we are good to go. Now, once this vegetable situation has cooked down for that about 5 to 7 minutes, you're gonna wanna transfer that into a bowl, and then you wanna use a separate, or that same pan, but now empty, for your mushrooms. This seems annoying. This seems like something you're like, Mary, can I just dump it all in? It's all vegetables, it's gonna be fine. But mushrooms have a weird amount of water in them, and if you were to put them in with the rest of those vegetables, it would kind of get a little bit soupy. So this is gonna allow the mushrooms to actually cook down quicker and concentrate their flavor more. So you're gonna get more deliciousness and a little bit more golden brown. So I'm gonna go into the pan with those mushrooms. You can even hear, mushrooms look dry, but they're sizzling because they are full of water. So we go in with those mushrooms. Feel free to process them real fine. If you got people who don't like mushrooms in your house, they'll never know. So, another thing that's great about a food processor. Add in a little bit of salt. You can season it with a bit of pepper as well. And again, we're gonna cook those down for about 5 to 7 minutes, just until they're really concentrated. Once that's done, we've transferred everything into a bowl, and it is not cute, but it is good. So when you put everything in, it's got that kind of ground beefy texture, right? Like, it's getting that flavor, that color. It's gonna be absolutely delicious. Tons of cooked down flavor in there. But now we're gonna add in the rest of the ingredients to bring this filling together. So the first thing, I wanna season this with some what I consider other meaty spices. So the first one is half a teaspoon of cumin. Cumin to me, it's a little lemony, but it's also a little smoky. Gives you a little bit of a barbecue-y flavor. Really, really tasty. So that's gonna go in. And then for what I call the bacon of your spice cupboard, smoked paprika. Gives you that smokiness, really tasty. Anytime I'm making a vegetarian version of something, you can count on these two ingredients being in there. Then for a little bit of protein, and again, a bit of smoky flavor and texture, we're going in with about 60 grams of walnuts. I've chopped them up, looking absolutely beautiful. You can chop those in your food processor if you want. Dream. Now I'm going in with an egg as well. That's gonna add protein and help everything bind together. And then the real kind of star of the show when it comes to cabbage rolls is the rice. The rice is the thing that binds everything. It's the starch. So I've got 3 cups of leftover rice. Now I'm always looking for recipes for leftover rice because I'm incapable of making the right amount of rice. I literally can't do it. I always make like this much or like this much. It's bonkers. But I'm gonna give this a bit of a stir. And we wanna season this as well with some delicious herbs. Now for me, when I'm thinking of kind of Polish cuisine or Ukrainian cuisine, I think dill, I think brightness. It's gonna be absolutely beautiful. My husband, he called her his Baba. She's Polish. They couldn't say babcha, so Baba is what it is. She would make vegetarian cabbage rolls by like, I swear, the thousands. It was wild. It was so good. Pierogies and cabbage rolls were always on the menu at her house. Now, we're gonna go in with about a 1/4 cup each of some dill, or parsley rather, and some dill. This one, you're gonna chop with a knife just to be gentle to them. But if you wanted to, I'm not gonna tell anybody if you put it in the food processor. Give that a bit of a chop. That's gonna go right on into the mix as well. And this is looking absolutely beautiful. It's fresh. It's a great way to use up a lot of leftovers. If you wanted to sub out meat, you would just add in some ground meat. It would be beautiful. Now that is the filling done. So now we're gonna put your sleeve back on. We're gonna chat cabbages. So I like to use a Savoy cabbage for my cabbage rolls as opposed to the really kind of dense green cabbages. Savoy cabbages are like the beach ball of the cabbages, whereas a regular cabbage is like a basketball. Like they're harder, you know? I like this one, it's a lot easier to work with, and I've got a trick. So typically when you're making a cabbage roll, you blanch the whole cabbage and then you peel off the leaves as they cook, blanching and peeling as you go. But what I like to do is just remove that root. You can also take a paring knife and remove some of this core, but it's not 100% necessary. After that, you wanna pop that into a zip top bag, and we're gonna use the freezer to freeze this cabbage, because basically what's gonna happen, if you can find room in your freezer, what's gonna happen is that cabbage is gonna kind of break down. Those tender kind of fibers, or those tougher fibers, are gonna break down in the freezer. Thaw it in your fridge for a couple days. It'll take about a day to freeze, 2 days to thaw, and you end up with leaves that are super bendy and super flexible. Super good. All right. Now, I'm gonna get started on rolling these, but real quick, you do wanna remove this tougher part of that kind of rib there. And the best part is, when you do that, it looks like a little top. Doesn't it look like a little top? I love this. It's like Cabbage Girl. All right. Now, to fill this, all you do is get about a 1/2 cup of that mixture. If your cabbage is a little small, feel free to go less. Give it a little bit of a wrap up and a tuck, and you have got one beautiful little cabbage roll. Now, when you're making cabbage rolls, typically if you look at kind of like an old school recipe, you're actually using a can of like condensed tomato soup, which I'm not mad at. If you have that and want to use it, feel free. But I'm gonna show you how to make like a quick kind of version of that that's a little bit fresher, super tasty. So the first thing I've got is a can of crushed tomatoes here. Just a standard can. If you want me to tell you how many milliliters in this, it's an even more annoying number than 227. It's 798. Guys, I know there's teachers here, so I'm trying to show them that I know my math. Yeah. All right, so I've got that can of tomatoes, and I'm gonna season that up with some salt, a little bit of pepper as well, just to give it a bit of seasoning. And then we're gonna go in with some herbs. So we've got that dill and that parsley in the actual filling for the cabbage rolls. So I'm gonna go in with a little bit of that, just about 2 tablespoons each, into this mixture as well. Then we're gonna go in with a little bit of some vegetable broth. Now, if you don't have vegetable broth handy, you could easily do this with just water. I'm gonna use about 1/2 cup of vegetable broth here. That's gonna thin this out and give you a little bit more of the consistency we're looking for. Right now, this is kind of like pasta saucy, but when you add that, it gets it a bit more cabbage roll saucy, if that makes sense. All right, now this is the thing that might throw some people off, but in a lot of classic sauces, there's a little bit of sugar in your tomato sauce just to balance out the bitterness and the acidity. I like to use brown sugar for this one though, because it kind of mimics that tomato soup sweetness that you know. So I'm going in with about 2 tablespoons of that. And again, this is batch recipe, so this will get split. I'm gonna give that a nice stir. If you wanted to here, you could also season this up with a little bit of cumin, a little smoked paprika, if you're really liking those flavors. You can make it a little spicy with some chili flakes. That would be beautiful as well. But that is literally all you need to do to make the sauce. Now, it's a little watery because we actually want to use that to steam those cabbage rolls. So what I'm going to do is I've got a little disposable pan here. Anytime I'm making cabbage rolls or something in batch cooking, I always do it in a pan that I can give away and not care if I get it back. Because that's the trick. This is the thing, you know when you make someone a pie and then you're like, goodbye, pie plate? That's theirs now. Use the disposable ones, you're good to go. So I'm gonna go in with a little bit of sauce along the bottom because that's gonna help steam and cook those cabbage leaves. Because remember, they're just frozen, they're not cooked yet. And I'm gonna go in with a few of those cabbage rolls. Now, this will make enough for a couple of these trays. I usually put about 4 in a tray, maybe 6, whatever you're feeling. But those just go right on in. Little bit of sauce on top, just to bring a bit more moisture. Then you wanna cover this. Now, if you have these trays, they sometimes have a little lid, you could do that. I'm just gonna use a bit of aluminum foil. Now, you can pop this in your fridge for 3 days, or you can put it in your freezer for up to 3 months. Super, super great. Or you could cook it right away. But if you're going right away or from the fridge, 350 degrees for 30 minutes, then remove that foil and let them go for another 10 minutes. Now, if you're doing this from the freezer, do it for about an hour at 350 degrees, and then again, another 10 minutes on top of that, just to get a little bit of golden brown color. And then you have the cutest little parcels. I love a cabbage roll. They're so cute. Look at these little guys. They're so delicious, super tasty. And you get to dig in. Again, something that you can have on hand for those busy nights. Maybe give it to your loved ones, whatever you're feeling. I'm gonna go in with 1 little cabbage roll, a little bit of that sauce on the side, and you, my friends, are in for an absolute treat. Hey, Mary here. What did you think? Drop your comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the good stuff.